pursuit of the Agitan rebels. Now you said unintentional crossing.
Your Excellency, we stand by our submission that it was an unintentional crossing.
That is not your case in the compromise. You were chasing rebels. That is the agreed case. You can't go outside your agreed case. This is a new point. The other side is entitled to argue. You're not entitled to do this. So if you were, in fact, in pursuit, I said pretended pursuit, you said no, it was real pursuit. That is the question to which my learned brother is referring. Now, if you were in real pursuit of rebels, you did cross the border. You did enter Burgundian territory. You were not supposed to be there.
Yes, Your Excellency, we agree that...
So they are entitled to retaliate, are they not?
Your Excellency, while we agree that the state of Burgundian may infer that this crossing was done by the Union of Dono Valley itself, it is now our submission before this court to clarify that the crossing of the border...
Time is extended by 2 minutes.
Thank you, Your Excellency. That the intention was to pursue Agitan rebels and not to cross borders into their territory. It is our submission that in order for an armed attack to be committed against another state, there must be an intent to in fact enter that other state and to make attacks upon it.
You were not entering Burgundian for tourism. You were there with your armed forces crossing the border with intention to hunt and kill or maim. That is not an unintentional entry. Do you agree with me?
Your Excellency, our entry...
If you don't, why not?
Your Excellency, with all due respect, our intention was indeed to pursue the Agitan rebels. Your Excellencies,
into their territory.
Your Excellency, since the Union of Dono Valley and the state of Burgundian...
With no notice to them. You didn't tell them that we are going to come into your territory if you don't control these people. No notice. That's the agreed case.
Yes, Your Excellency. We concede that there was no notice on the state of Burgundian on our part.
So there was an unlawful entry.
However, Your Excellency, the entry was without any intention on our part to for us to unlawfully enter. It was not with any intention on the part of the Union of Dono Valley to enter into the territory of Burgundian. The intention was to pursue the Agitan rebels who were wreaking havoc upon the Union of Dono Valley. Your Excellencies, this was necessitated by the necessities of war, Your Excellencies. It was a state of civil war.
That brings you right back to the clean hands doctrine, doesn't it? Because who started it all then?
Your Excellency,
you can't escape that.
Even if we admit, Your Excellency, that this originated in an internal affair of the Union of Dono Valley, which also brings me back to the point that since it is an internal affair...
Internal affair, this is overused cliche in international discourse. How about human rights? And now the year is not 1965, when the first General Assembly resolution made. The year is 2008. And responsibility to protect, you mentioned General Assembly resolution. You are aware of the responsibility to protect,
yes,
the concept of humanitarian intervention or revival, or at least in some aspect of state practice. So how would you justify the so-called internal affairs situation? And it's not strictly internal, it will affect the territories. If there were no refugees, perhaps they are not entitled. If there were no bombing incidents, if there were no border incursions, then it may be a different situation.
Thank you for pointing this out, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, even assuming but without conceding, Your Excellency, that this was not a purely internal matter on the part of the Union of Dono Valley, the state of Burgundian may not invoke the principle of humanitarian intervention. For humanitarian intervention has not attained the status of international law as well, Your Excellency. There is no state practice which is consistent and uniform across jurisdictions. There is no opinio juris sive necessitatis on the part of states, Your Excellencies, for them to give aid to peoples who are allegedly
But there is a right to protect one's own sovereignty against unauthorized military intervention.
Your Excellency,
There is.
unauthorized.
Yes, they did not give you permission to come into their territory to hunt rebels. It was unauthorized transgression, aggression by your troops.
Your Excellency, the acts that the state of Burgundan, once more, it is our submission, none of the acts that the state of Burgundan invoke are armed attacks by the state or by the Union of Dono Valley. The incursion into their territory and the acts of Colonel Fathoni are not our own
You
acts.
have to summarize your case quickly now.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. Our first
60 seconds, 61 seconds.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Your Excellencies, our first two submissions are first, that Burgundan violated Dono Valley sovereignty when it used force in violation on the norm of non-intervention because they interfered in our internal affairs. Further, their use of force was in fact an act of aggression against us, Your Excellencies, which is defined as a crime against the peace, Your Excellencies. Our second submission is that the use of force by the state of Burgundan...
Third submission.
Thank you, Your Excellency, I stand corrected. Our third submission here, or sub-submission, is that the state of Burgundan has no right to justify their use of force either by the lawful exercise of self-defense, nor for the legitimate support of national liberation movements. First, it is not lawful exercise of self-defense, for there was no prior armed attack from the Union of Dono Valley, and according to Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, the precondition does not exist.
Thank you very
If
much.
the court has no need
We
of
have no
assistance.
questions.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. I now cede the podium to my learned co-agent, Mr. Ocampo.
Give us a few minutes.
Certainly, Your Excellencies. Mr. President, Your Excellencies, may it please this honorable court, my name is Christopher Louis Ocampo, second agent for the Union of Dono Valley. May it please this honorable court. Your Excellencies, my co-agent has just discussed with you how the government of Burgundan...
She has not discussed anything with us. She has made a submission.
Oh, thank you very much, for Your Excellency, for that correction. I stand corrected. She has submitted before this honorable court that the government of Burgundan has violated our sovereignty when it used force against us, Your Excellencies, and how this use of force is not justified under international law, either as a lawful act of self-defense or as a legitimate provision of support to national liberation movement or as an act of humanitarian intervention. I believe, Your Excellency, she has also answered your questions pertaining to the
Get
question
on
of
with
Mr.
your
Lisi.
argument. Get on with your argument. You have only 20 minutes.
Certainly, Your Excellencies. I shall discuss with you our last three submissions. Our second submission, Your Excellencies, is that the assumption